into the Corey Love Show, where carefree conversations about life, business, what's trending, and more is taking place. And it's hosted by yours truly, your host, Corey Love.
It doesn't. Hey, 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 hey. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, Lakia. Hey, Nesta the Dawn. Hey, Yolanda. How y'all doing? Y'all already know the routine. Click that arrow. Click that airplane, whatever you call it. Share this out with your audience. Tonight we have the pleasure of speaking with Starla Dior. She is not a business owner. However, she does work with businesses, the funeral business, that is. She's going to be speaking with us tonight about coffin. She's going to answer any coffin questions. So it's not necessarily only about coffins, but anything dealing with the funeral industry. So if you're not already following, make sure you follow her. And right now, do me a favor to share this out with your audience while we wait for a few more people to jump on. And I'm waiting on her as well, because as you know, she is in Vegas. So it's like a 3-hour difference. Oh, there she is. So it's 8:02. I'm going to go ahead and bring her right on in so we can just get started right away. Hey, Star. Hey.
Hey, girl. Hey. How you doing?
I love when you say that. It is so cute to be like, hey, girl. Hey.
Hey, girl. Hey. You know.
Hey, love.
Hey, you look beautiful as always.
Thank you. So are you. You over there glowing, honey.
Girl, it's just because I'm hot. You know, wigs make me hot. So, you know, that's all that is.
We at that age. It's all right. Ain't no problem. Ain't no problem. They know. Everybody on here should know. If they don't know, now they know.
Okay. Now you know. Okay.
So, hey, Isha. Hey, guys. Tonight, like I told you guys before, those of you that are here, we're going to be speaking with Starla Dior. I know that's not her real name, but that's what I love calling her because it sounds so elegant and classy, you know. So she is going to talk to us about all things coffin, funeral, the right things to say in this, you know, in the event of losses and so forth and so on. So as you already know, drop your questions in the question box or question bubble, drop them in the comment. If you drop them in the comment box, we will probably miss it, but we'll definitely get to your question. So yeah. I know if they have read your, what I wrote about you under the flyer, they know that you wanted to do this since a child. Now, how did that come about as a child?
You know, well, excuse the corn man in my background. You know, this is his normal time frame on this day. It's a guy who, you know, they sell the elote is what they call it. You know, it's like the Mexican corn with all the flavors and the sauces and all of that. So he out right now, and I'm going to let him do his thing in the background, even though, you know, I'll talk to him later. But anyway, you know, it was strange because I was about 6 or 7 years old, which is really early to know what you want to do, but especially if it's in this industry, you know, most people don't fall into this until, you know, their adulthood. So I was about 6 or 7 years old. Both my parents are musicians. So I went with my mom to a funeral of a young man. He was pretty tall and pretty buff. And during the visitation, which is also called the quiet hour, which is usually before the ceremony begins or the night before, I went there and I broke free of my mom and child. I just went up there just touching, just reaching, touching and looking and trying to see how much is this and what is that. And, you know, that could be disturbing. The same face you're making is the same face that other people make.
I was 15 when I saw a body, and I'm like, I'm going to have nightmares. Oh, my God, that is so weird.
I was just curious. I just wanted to know. So my mom thought, let me go get my child. Oh, my gosh. So she came over to me and she asked me, do you understand what's happening? Do you understand what's going on? And I said, yes. I know that he's resting, but I want to help the people that are crying. So early on, because of my faith, I'm Christian. So I already knew that, you know, he's absent from the body. And because he was a Christian, he was present with the Lord. So I already knew that that's just his shell. at a
Right,
very early
right.
age. So I knew that his body was at rest, that he's not suffering from anything. He actually had a brain aneurysm, which was in 27 or 28. So,
Mm-hmm.
but
Oh
that's how
wow.
I got started. And I used to stage my Barbies with. I used to stage my Barbies with my funerals, and my mom would make these little couches a long time ago. So they would work with my Barbies, and I would just lay them on a little couch and make, pretend it's a little casket. Girl, yeah, I've always been
You
that
know what's
child.
funny? I used to do that with my dolls to be a teacher. And you over here doing it, making a fake comment.
Girl, yeah. I used to do everything with my dogs. I used to put them in church, put them at the DMV, put them at the bus stop. It didn't matter.
I
was
can't.
that child. Realistic situation. Really? So I was just fascinated by that. And I just said, well, let's start doing it with Barbie. So when I get little flowers, I would stage little funerals, or I would go outside, grab some, come back in the house. It was interesting. I wanted to know what happens after that, or what else is going on while that happens. What all does it take to make this happen?
Right. So throughout your childhood, obviously you kept that in you and you ended up doing it. So when you went through, like, we'll say, do you go to college for this, or did you go to like a trade school or whatever? How did that work?
Great question. There's so many different ways to get into this industry. It's phenomenal. I mean, because you don't have to be a funeral director or a funeral arranger, which is what I am. You don't have to be that. You could be a removal technician. Those are the individuals who go out to the home to bring that loved one into our care. You could be someone who just does the programs. You could be the individual who just wants to work the services, or maybe just sell the plot. So there's really so many different options that you have when it comes to getting into this industry. Schooling is one of them. Sacramento, there's a school in Sacramento that you're able to go to. You just need your AA degree, and you can just apply for your license. Study hard, but once you get it, you got it, and it's a great industry to get into. And it's never too late, never too early or too late.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna say swear because this is what you do, but I'm the person that prepares all the obituaries for family members, and I've even done it for a student before and stuff like that. And I've always wanted to work with them, but I'm super, super duper sensitive. Like, I don't have to know you to go to your funeral and cry. Like, I'm just seeing somebody around me cry. It's like I feel their pain. And I was like, I know this cannot be for me. That's why I was not a nurse, because when I left teaching, I wanted to do nursing. And I was like, no, once I see blood, oh no. And then I see people crying, I don't. But with that, it's like, okay, now that you do that, so what do you specifically do?
So I arrange the funerals. So I sit down with the families, I make all of the arrangements, get them to the point of cremation or to the point of burial.
So, but if I come to you, like for me, I want to be cremated. I will tell people that save the cost of a coffin, and people just save the cost. Cremate me. I'm going to go back to ashes anyway.
Girl, I'm getting to that too, girl. I'm glad.
Right. So that's my thing. How do you, okay, let's say we come, and I'm asking the questions in like real life things, because this is something which I was so excited about doing with you, because a lot of people don't realize death is inevitable. We know that. A lot of people aren't prepared. I got a text 2 days ago, a young girl, she a stray bullet, she got killed. So there's a text going around people to do GoFundMe. I told my children, if y'all got to do GoFundMe, leave me in the hospital. They'll put me in a box 2 weeks later. Ain't no problem. Don't worry about that. But because I don't want to say that's so low, but we don't think about life insurance, what's going to happen in the long run, because we into everything else. So how do you go to the point, like, how do you have that conversation? I come to you and I say, hey, my cat just died. I'm saying cat because I don't want to call nobody's name. Like, okay, my grandfather just passed away.
Auntie Cat just died. You got it.
Auntie Cat. Okay, Auntie Cat just passed away, and we only have $1,000. But we want that coffin that's $875. Like, how do you tell us, no, you can't afford that? You better,
Which is this is great that you're bringing this up. The very first thing is, when a loved one passes, just stop for a moment. Just breathe for a moment. That's something everybody's in such a rush. It is time sensitive, yes, but just breathe for a moment. And then the next step will be figure out who is the next of kin. If it's Auntie Cat, was Auntie Cat married? Because it's usually the spouse that is the person who is who has the right to control what we call their disposition. If not,
hold on, wait a minute, because for some reason it's making you. I think it's the Wi-Fi.
Okay.
You're
am I good?
You're in and out, and it's a little blurry.
Oh no. Should I turn my Wi-Fi off just in case?
Yeah, try to turn it off.
Okay, give me a.
Let's give it a second. Because I want to get these answers good. And everybody that's on, I know they want to get it too.
Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay. Now you see me? Okay.
Good.
Okay. So the very first step is figure out who the next of kin is. It may not be you. It may not be just because you're blood. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're the next of kin. So let's figure out who the next of kin is, or the person who has the power of attorney for healthcare. Write that down if you guys can, because that's something that I hope we can touch back on in a little bit. We have to figure out who has the right to control your disposition. From there, that's when you make contact with the funeral home of your choice. You do not have to just stop at one funeral home. If you want to set appointments throughout the day with different funeral homes, do so. You do not have to be locked down to one particular funeral home. Don't feel bad in telling a funeral home, you know what, we decided to go over here. Thank you so much for your time. That's a part of the business. It's an operation. So it's just part of the business. And we understand. We'd rather you have what it is that you're really looking for versus just settling with us because you feel bad for us. That makes sense. So you go in, you make the arrangements. They're going to bring up some state required forms that you're required to sign as the next of kin. In the state of California, you're able to waive your rights to someone else. It's not that way in all states. I also work for Washington and partially Colorado. So it's different in every state. But you sit there and you sign the state required forms. For cremation, there's usually a bit more forms. There's a few, there's a couple more forms, at least in California there are, but that's okay. We walk you through what all of that means. From there, then that's when we have to register the passing. So this is kind of the hurry up and wait stage. This is the part where most people get frustrated because they need a death certificate. But before a loved one is cremated, you have to have the passing registered. The very first step is for us to gather the causes of passing from the doctor. Or if it's a coroner that they came from, then that just means that the coroner will transfer the record to us. The causes may be pending, but you can at least receive a death certificate. So we would say, so from there, it goes through the state. It goes through the county's health department. It also goes through Social Security because we notify Social Security on your behalf. And then once everything is fully registered, then that's when the county will issue something that's called a permit. So it's just like when you're building something, you need a permit, you need permission from the county or the state to do so within your home. It's the same thing when a loved one passes. You need a permit. And that's what we're waiting for as a funeral home. So it's almost like a cul-de-sac. Think of it this way. Even though I know my destination is directly across the street, I have to stop at each and every home on the block to make sure that your passing is fully registered. So there's so many hands involved in this, in getting one loved one taken care of, or laid to rest. There's so many hands that are involved. But once we have the permit as funeral homes, we have more control. So there's a number of steps, but the very first step, I always tell people, just breathe and then take a point person. Take a point person with you. Someone who is connected to you, but maybe not as emotionally tied, because your mind is everywhere. You're going to be on an emotional roller coaster, and it's normal. It's okay. But you want somebody to kind of have your back to take a few notes, maybe go over some of the questions that you cannot at that time.
Right. Yeah, I'm usually that point person. I don't know how that happened, but it happens. I don't know why. Like, I am always literally the one. Call Carissa. She knows what to do. And I technically kind of don't. I don't know. I just assume, I think. Usually I'm assuming.
But that's
but I've done it so much now that I kind of know, what to do. You said a permit. So in Miami, in the city that I live in, we have to get a permit. Like, if I have an open garage, so I have to get a permit to get the garage enclosed. Is there a charge for the permit in death as well?
There is, but it's all incorporated into what they present to you in the funeral arrangements. All of that is part of their packet. So here in California, the permit is $12. And that is what you normally give to We give that to our crematories or to the burial location, and that usually has that recorded. So let's say someone was cremated and they just want their loved one's ashes to stay at home. The permit will read residents of and whomever that is. You also need a permit to scatter remains, believe it or not. So I would say, if y'all want me to be trained, look, okay, listen, I'm your cousin in this industry, so I'm gonna keep it all the way real with you without talking too much. Okay.
Yeah.
So anytime you go through an agency to scatter a loved one's remains, you have to have that permit, and that permit has to say scattering off the coast of. I'm speaking more so from California because that's the state that I'm most familiar with, and that I work in often. So like in California, you have to have that permit that says scattering off the coast of San Francisco Bay. And it's usually 500 yards off the coast. So if you're going through an agency, like if you rented a boat and you want your family to come and witness the ashes being scattered, then they're going to want that permit. The burial location, so wherever cemetery you're going to, they're going to want that permit. And it has to say their name listed.
Okay. So the permit is also for... Okay, so usually somebody passes away in a hospital, typically. So you have to get the permit for you guys to move them from the hospital to the...
Good question. So one of those forms that you're going to be signing with whomever makes the arrangements with you is a release form. Anytime you move someone from a facility, like the coroner's office or a hospital, then you have to have a release form. That's what gives you written permission to bring a loved one into your care as a funeral home. But that permit, we have to go through the doctor first. We have to go through state, county, we have to go through a number of agencies first before we get that permit. And the normal registration time is about 8 to 10 days. But because we're in a pandemic, my gosh, we have to consider a little bit of everything. So this means that the doctor who would normally sign off within those 8 to 10 days, they're overwhelmed because now they're seeing double or triple the amount of patients that they right, and which means they're also signing off on double or triple the amounts of passings. So, you know, it takes them a little while for them to sign and provide causes for us. But they'll eventually do so. And we always poke at them at funeral homes saying, hey, I know you're busy, but I gotta do this, you know, so.
Wow. So Trisha says, and her fiance is actually, her fiance is in the industry as well. I don't want to say he's I don't know the title, but he picks up the bodies. So I don't know what that would be called. So she's just telling us that even though you're being cremated, they have a viewing for the body. The family still has to rent a car. I don't want them. They ain't renting that. Y'all don't need to come see me. No, man. That I'm going to have to pay for that rental. No.
So yes and no. So there are, I know at least in California, there's different types, and that's really up to the funeral home. That's their discretion.
I better put a picture up. They can buy.
Right. So like one of the funeral homes that I have, there's called an ID viewing, which means it's not a bunch of people that come by to pay their respects to their loved one. They're usually laid on, I don't want to call it a table, but someone like a cot/table. There's usually some type of linen or something that's over them. We fix their features to where it just looks like they're resting, but there's no embalming or anything. So it's usually just a certain number of people who are able to come by and identify and pay their respects. If you want to do a visitation or a viewing, oh yes, she was not.
You got to rent a car.
You got to either rent a casket or purchase one.
Okay. I saw some questions above. Let me go back up. Melanin Queens, who's in California, she says, can you make arrangements for the headstone as well?
You know, I believe you can. That's more so a question for the cemetery. But a lot of people do make arrangements in its entirety altogether. I'm not sure if they have like pre-arrangements for your headstone, like where you could pay for those in advance. It could be that the funeral home or the cemetery that you're contracting with, they'll take a lump sum, and you may have to pay the difference later. Or something of that nature, but you can always contract with the group who makes the headstones. You can, I'm sure they'll allow you to, but you may pay a different cost than what you would going through the funeral home, if that makes sense.
Okay, and hey Dorothy, thanks for tuning in. I've never seen you before in my life, so glad to have you here. That's because that's my mama. Hey mama. She says, how long does it take to get a death certificate?
Excellent.
She's been waiting for 24 hours.
Excellent question. Now, a death certificate will not happen overnight. That's probably the first thing you need and one of the last things you're going to get. So traditionally, that's something that you would get at the time of the funeral. We probably give it to you a few days before or a few days after. That permit, that same permit that we were talking about, is what allows us to order death certificates. So that means everything's fully registered. You can order directly through the county and probably obtain it a little bit faster. But most of the time, the county wants like a notarized letter. They want extra shipping and so on and so forth. If you go through the funeral home, they usually don't charge you anything additional. And right now, we can't walk into the funeral. We can't walk into a lot of the county's health departments. So we have to do them by mail or online, place that order. So I would just say after registration, the safest thing that I could say is about 2 weeks for you to receive them. 10 days to 2 weeks after you're fully registered.
So the first thing is the person they're deceased in their hospital. That what's the first thing they have to do first?
Great. The first thing is to sign a release form. Now, sometimes you'll sign a release form before you actually go in and make the arrangements, because our goal is to hurry up and get them out of that location and safe and sound with us. That's the goal. That's the very first step.
So is there a difference if they pass away in a home or a hospital?
Ooh, yes. I'm glad you asked. Yes. So if you pass away at home, it really depends on your medical history. A lot of people that are at home nowadays that are transitioning, is what I like to say, that are transitioning at home. If you haven't seen or most of those individuals are on hospice. So there's usually some type of doctor or nurse that keeps control of your medical history, if I could say it that way. Right. So so the hospice doctor would be the one to sign off on your passing. The hospice nurse would be the one to contact us to let us know that you've passed, that you transitioned. If you haven't seen a doctor in over a year, I think it's either 6 months to a year, then that's when the coroner usually gets involved. The coroner would be the one to bring you into their care to do a thorough examination, or what they'll do is review your medical history. They'll try to locate your doctors, and if they see fit, then they'll just release you to us. And then the doctor will sign off. But usually it's once you go to the coroner, it'll be the coroner who fills out the medical portion of your record.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. She said that's different than here. Tell me what's different, Bonnie, because I'm not really sure what you're referring to. And there's another question. Trisha says, my uncle's stepdaughter picks up his wife's death certificate. Is he able to obtain another for himself? Good question.
What county are they located in? What state and what county? Because again, every county
is different. She's in Texas. I'm not sure what county though.
Yeah, sometimes they'll allow someone else to pick up the death certificate on that loved one's behalf. I'm not sure if they have to schedule an appointment or let vital statistics, which is that portion of the health department. I'm not sure if they had to let them know. Again, every state is different. So it might be a little different in Texas than it would be out here. In California, no, not anybody can just pick up your death certificate. It has to be someone of the bloodline or someone within the next degree of kinship. So if it's mom, if let's say mom transitions, and dad is too distraught to go, usually the son or the daughter will be able to go. But like a brother or someone else of that nature, nah, it has to be in the immediate degree of kinship.
Oh, she said we register death electronically at the hospital or nursing home.
That's good. I'm glad you said that, because it's that way sometimes here too. Like Kaiser usually fills out all of their own death certificates. So they fill out the medical portion. We don't necessarily have to make contact with the doctor because they already have that information ready to go, and then they just transfer the entire record to it. So it is that way in some locations here.
So like, say for instance, I don't have like a history per se, but I, God forbid, knock on wood, I'm not wishing that on anyone, but I bump my toe and I fall and hit my head at home. The coroner will pick me up from home.
The coroner will get involved. So first of all, if anybody passes while you're at home, call 911. If they're on hospice, then call your hospice doctor. But always call 911.
Yes.
That way it's recorded. They'll send out a deputy. They'll send out an officer. And that officer will determine if there's immediate foul play or anything of that nature. They'll contact the coroner. The coroner will make that determination on yes, no, maybe so. If you fall and you hit your head or you stubbed your toe, and you might have, forgive me for being so raunchy or for being so raw, but if you bled out or something like that, then yes, you're likely going to the coroner's office.
Okay. She said a copy is immediately available to a family. Oh, okay, because they're doing it electronically.
So we do things electronically most of the times too. That it's rare when we have to mail anything. It's only when we're requesting the death certificate itself, like everything is registered. All of this stuff is done electronically. So in some ways, she's right. If she's right for her state, yeah. And in some ways, for this state, she is too. So we do everything electronically. It's just sometimes for doctors, when we're trying to get in contact with them, we have to send over worksheets to them, so they can fill out. They and their nursing staff will fill out what the causes of passing were. Then they'll send the worksheet back to us, and we enter that information into the official record, like the electronic record. Then we send them something that's called an attestation. And that's just saying, like, the final signature saying, yes, I do understand that these were the causes that I provided, so on and so forth. So all of that is done electronically.
Okay. And someone asked, which is also a very good question, because I've always wondered that. How does your life insurance pay for the funeral arrangements? Like,
ooh, good.
Because I always wonder, like, so you pass today, you have life insurance, you don't get the money automatically deposited into your beneficiary's account.
Absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So a lot of funeral homes will.
Good question, Coco.
Great question, Coco. Hey, Coco. So a lot of funeral homes, they partner with insurance companies. So what those insurance companies will do is they'll forward the funeral home whatever the cost of their balance is, they in the cemetery. And then once a death certificate is received, then they'll kick out the rest of it to the family. So that's usually how, and there's a small percentage, and every funeral home is different. So I'm not going to quote any particular percentage, because every funeral home is different. Some take 3%, some take 3.5%, some take 2.3%, some take 5%. It's usually not of the total amount of the policy, but whatever the total amount is of your balance with them is.
Oh, so I need everybody that's on here or just tuning in to know that we are speaking with Starla Dior. She is talking to us. We call it Coffin Questions, but it's about, anything dealing with death and so forth and so on. She is in the funeral industry. And I want you guys to share this out with your audience or your followers, customers, whatever you want to call them, because I feel like this conversation is to be had, and it's not had many times. And that's why GoFundMe happens. So share this out, and I'm going to do that. And I'm going to give you a second to do it as well, Star, for your audience, and then we're going to jump right back on into the questions.
Yes.
I'm telling you, like, this is something that we don't talk about, because this is just like mental health. Nobody wants to talk about it.
Nobody likes to talk about this, but it's such a healthy conversation. I agree that everybody, whoever can tune in, just grab a little piece of something. And, there's so many different things to talk about when it comes to this industry. It's not just that,
Right.
Exactly. So I'm glad you brought up something. You mentioned something. You mentioned GoFundMe. So I'm going to give you a little secret about GoFundMe. Okay, you ready? Okay, you ready? Okay. So with GoFundMe, it's not a bad thing to have.
Okay.
But it is something, I would say, what GoFundMe is you're depending on others to donate to take care of something that technically could have been taken care of, but we don't know the day or the hour that anyone is going to go.
Right.
So if you don't have a life insurance policy, most people go with GoFundMe. Some people, they don't mind doing both. Okay, so in certain counties in California, more so Northern California, if this person passed from a violent crime, usually the county finds a way to assume the cost. If they do that, of course you have to go through certain hoops. There's certain groups that you have to contact, paperwork that you have to fill out. There's an allotment that they give to you. Some counties are like $7,000 in total, so that will cover your burial and your funeral costs. So every county is different, and every county has different amounts that they offer. So if you go that route, if your loved one has passed, don't say it's for the funeral. Okay.
Y'all better catch this real quick. Y'all better catch this.
Listen, cousins, for real. Do not say. What you say is these are for the expenses for the family, so that way they don't have to take on that burden. When a loved one dies, life still has to carry on.
Yeah.
So if they have a storage unit and you don't receive that death certificate for a month, you're going to have to cover that cost of the storage unit, or you won't be able to retrieve anything from it. D&D, any of those things. You want to think about all of those extra costs. If that person has a car note, all of those things. Sometimes when your loved one passes, especially if you're directly connected, your mind is going to be everywhere. So you may not necessarily go to work. You may not be able to earn an income at that time. So those are the expenses that you want to think of. So when you're mentioning GoFundMe, mention that this is going towards the family and all the expenses.
Got it. Okay.
The funeral. You know what I mean? Because that way there's no cap, especially if you say, oh, this is for the funeral. People are going to calculate in their own minds, okay, they had this flower, they got this, they're going to order that, they're going to order a castor spray, they're going to order this. And they start calculating how much that funeral is, and you don't want them on your business because that ain't their business, that's yours. Okay? So just say that they're for expenses. But you know,
that's a good way to put it. Yeah. So it's not that bad. Okay. I'll look at it.
And there's something else even with GoFundMe. So, so there's GoFundMe, there's life insurance, but there's also something that's called a funeral trust. So for those who are unable, and this kind of ties into the conversation you had with me about yourself, if there are individuals who are not able to obtain life insurance for whatever purposes that they can't, then you want to have a funeral trust. So that means you're going to the funeral home of your choice and you're making pre-arrangements directly with them. So you usually put down a small amount and then you pay over time. What you're doing is, I say that plus life insurance is awesome. And let me tell you why. Thanks for asking, y'all. Let me tell you why. So with the funeral trust, you're locking in the cost for that year. Whatever that cost is, that's the cost that's what you're locking in. You're locking in that price. Funeral arrangements is almost like real estate. It goes up almost every year. So you want to be conscious of the amount. So I don't plan on going for at least another 50 years. So I want to lock in the cost of this year versus what it's going to cost 50 years from now. And you're able to make payments. You're able to make installments with most funeral homes. So, it's not a bunch that you have to put down right away.
Okay. So in my case, for those of you that don't know, I have a heart condition, so I'm not able to get life insurance. And when I left my job, I lost whatever I had already. So I couldn't, it's not like John, it's not like I can carry it over or anything like that. So I have to do a funeral trust. So whatever what I've locked it in with now, if they change it in 5 years, I'm based on the 2020 price.
That's it. That's it. The only thing that's going to cost you a little bit more than that are what's called cash advancements. So if you're ordering flowers, you'll have to pay the difference. Or, if you're ordering death certificates, if death certificates get higher, that's not the funeral home's cost, that's the county's cost. So you would just have to pay the difference. But of the actual funeral arrangements, oh no, you don't have to. Yeah, you don't have to.
Okay. And hopefully whichever, I know who I have already. So they never mentioned that part, but.
No, wait, now going back to what you said, because you said something earlier. You said that you don't mind being cremated. I'm glad you mentioned that. So let me tell you why, Corey. Let me tell you why. Money does not equate to love. It does not mean that the more money you spend means you love that person more. Sometimes when we spend more money, for some, I ain't finna tell nobody business, but for some people, it's really out of guilt. Like, oh my gosh, I wish I would have seen them one more time, or I wish I wouldn't have cursed them out. It was just all over some fries anyway. I should have just did them right. So they feel like they have to go above and beyond.
And do the most.
Really don't. I would say cremation takes up less space. For me, I plan on being cremated as well, because I feel like I've served my purpose and I don't need to take up any more space on this earth. So like I'm gonna be cremated, and you don't have to go through the funeral home to plan the service. If you just want to be cremated and plan a memorial somewhere else, help yourself. And a memorial is just that body is physically not present. That's
okay.
That's
a good tip there too. That's a good tip. That's a good tip.
Yes, honey.
And the only reason why I say that is because I feel like whatever I do have, I don't want them spending so much of it on the service. Like, I really don't, because I want to leave whatever I do. I make sure I have a savings and so forth and so on, aside from the funeral costs. So I want the funeral costs to pay for the funeral part, the
Yes.
cremation and the little urn and whatever. So that's why I'm trying to make sure I leave enough for me. You know, I had 3 heart failures. So for me, it's like, nah, just in case, because you never know. So that's the reason why I want to do it as far as that. But when I tell you these questions you guys are asking and the answers she's giving, I bet y'all ain't never knew half of this stuff. So make sure you have the questions for me. So TMC50 said, I have life insurance for myself, kids, and grandkids. Do I need more for funeral costs?
No, not at all. You do not have to have more. And remember, the life insurance policy, make sure that whoever spends those funds, and hey, cuz, whoever spends those funds, they know what you want. You could put what you want in writing. Get it notarized. That way nobody can change what it is. We see this happen all the time where people fight over what this loved one should have. No, my mama didn't want this. No, auntie only wanted this. We see it happen all the time. Yeah. You just go for what you want. Get it notarized. That's $15, $20. You can even do it online. You can do that online now. But just get what you want notarized. And then remember, if it's like a $50,000 policy, they don't need to spend $45 on the funeral. Okay? Try to pocket that money. Go around. Some things you can kind of tiptoe and go around. Now, if you're ordering something like flowers, anything like that, those cash advance items, then go order them yourself. Don't necessarily go through the funeral home. I'm gonna just keep it real with y'all. Now I'll get a little extra for it, but you do not have to go through the funeral home to get those items, y'all. Go to a florist yourself. Tell them what you desire. Tell them what it's for. Ask them, do they have any examples of it? Save you a couple $100 and
right.
yourself. Right. But no, a life insurance policy, that is more than enough. More than enough. Now, okay, wait. Okay. So to you who asked that question and to anybody else, something that I mentioned before, there's something that's called an advanced healthcare directive or power of attorney for healthcare. Now look, let me
that's what I'm
explain
asking about the power.
I'm gonna give you a little story, okay? So I gotta use my ruler because I'm extra. Mommy. So there was a wife who came in. He was the spouse was previously married, but he remarried to this lady. This lady was very high and mighty about her relationship with her husband. But what ended up happening is the ex-wife had the power of attorney for healthcare. So you know what that means? She trumped the wife. Yes, honey, I see it. All the drama comes out.
Wait a minute. So it was never changed.
It was never changed. It's still in effect. So if you want a particular individual, maybe there's a parent that's out there and you don't want your kids to make the arrangements because they would be the legal next of kin. Find somebody that you desire. Find somebody that you're good friends with, that doesn't mind assuming the responsibility of closing out your affairs. So there's the power of attorney, which is like for your estate and for your finances. But then there's also a power of attorney for healthcare, which is over your remains. There's a clause that we look for that says that you have the right to control this person's disposition. So it could be that, yeah, you left everything to the kids, but I don't trust them. I don't trust them with my arrangements. So I'm going to make sure Billy Bob Joe over here, my homie over here from work, I'm going to make sure they take care of my remains. So there's so many different ways to end up afterwards. Let's just ask questions and I'll be glad to answer them. If I don't have the answer, I will find a representative. I will find somebody in this industry who has the answer.
So, okay. So which one? Because Joanna said the POA supersedes everything. So the POE.
Tell it, girl.
Yes. She's a nurse. She's a nurse in Canada.
Yes, I love her.
A lot about this stuff. She said, I love her. So
I love her.
If I do a POA and I had a notarized document, that supersedes it still, or they?
So it has to. There's a certain clause that has to be in there. So an advanced healthcare directive, go to a hospital and just ask them for an advanced healthcare directive. You could probably, or go to a lawyer and ask a lawyer to review it. So with some healthcare directives, it doesn't necessarily have to be notarized. I just feel like a notarized seal looks better. It's cleaner, right, and it's easier to understand. But go to a lawyer and ask them for a power of attorney, or Google one if you want to, and just fill in the blanks. Some of them will require 2 signatures. And mind you, on forms like that, all the dates have to match. That's why I say get it notarized. So if your witness signs on the 15th, but you and the other witness signed on the 12th, that makes it null and void no matter what it says, because how could you witness something to happen if you weren't there the same day? So all those dates have to match. That's why I say, oh, go to a notary, because they ensure that those dates match. But,
right.
Thank you, nurse. Thank you, nurse.
Wow. Okay. Listen. She said in this order, POA, spouse, children is equal. Then grandkids equal. If no legal. Oh, okay, I get what you're saying. I got it. It's that certain order.
That's called the degree of kinship. She's absolutely right. And I can always email that to anybody if they need to. You can also Google that, the degree of kinship.
Okay. She says, I have an insurance policy on my twins' dad. If he marries, what would I do?
You got a okay, say that again. So it's your kid's dad, you got a life insurance policy. I like you. Okay. I like you. Don't you get rid of that policy, girl. Now, the only thing that you're going to need when he transitions, keep your mouth closed. Don't tell nobody else that you got that, okay? That's just between us cousins on the line.
Okay, I'm going to take it off right now, Trisha. Take it off.
Yeah. Don't even remind him that you got it. All you'll need if he transitions is a death certificate. And those death certificates, it has to have the causes listed on those death certificates. Most insurance companies want to know how that individual passed, because it might violate their rules or it might cause it to be null and void. You could be paying years on an insurance policy, but if they committed suicide, unfortunately, some will not pay out for that. So just run that by your insurance company. That I wouldn't say call them, because then that's recorded, and if something happens, it looks suspicious. But Google the company that you are associated with, and then see what their rules are if someone transitions, if someone passes, what all you have to have. But it's normally just a death certificate, and you're good. Now, it might be difficult for you to get the death certificate because you're not the next of kin. So play nice is what I say. The easiest way. Play nice.
Y'all are something else. She said his cousin is my age, and cousin ain't right either.
What happened? What you say?
She said his cousin, her kid's dad, is her agent. Y'all is something else, but girl, he's smart. So like Joanna said, Joanna said, keep that insurance policy, girl. Maybe his wife will kill him early.
Girl, that's what I'm saying. Keep that thing.
I ain't fooling with y'all.
Keep that thing.
We taking care. I agree. That's what I was gonna ask. So, if she's taking care of the children, do they have to be a certain age in order for her to get the death certificate? God forbid.
Good question. I would say ask your county. Not necessarily do the kids have to be a certain age. It really just depends on what you set up with that particular company, because some may say, okay, if the children aren't 18, then it goes into a trust, blah, 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 blah. Depends on all of that. But most of them will pay out. Okay. Most of them will. As long as you have that death certificate. Play nice. Play nice.
And so now this is kind of probably weird, but sorry. I'm writing. I'm taking notes in my daughter's little art book, sketchbook. She looking at me like, what? I ain't had nothing else, love. I'm so sorry, big girl.
Sorry.
But so, okay, this is kind of probably off. But guys, don't forget, if you have any other questions, make sure you drop your questions. You can drop them in the comment box. It's pretty open now. Beatrice said, I did everything in New Jersey with the funeral home, and I did rent. I didn't want to buy. So
that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Sometimes the bodies, and this probably don't even make sense, but why is it that some funeral homes make the bodies look normal? Like they'll make me look just like me, and some of them make them look terrible, like they be too dark. Or is that a dumb question? I'll just be trying to.
It's not. That's why I'm so glad you feel comfortable even asking me that question. So there's a couple of things that go into that. It really depends on how a loved one passes, how they transition. Were they ill at the time? Did they have edema, which is just swelling of the tissue? So did they swell up with all the fluids? Those have to escape somewhere, so they're going to escape in the tissues, some people are, the heavier someone is, the kind of, I don't want to say boxy they look, but you got that, like you're leaning back, you're pulling your neck back. Yeah, there's some things we just cannot get rid of. A lot of people really look at this as art. Some of these embalmers they have reconstructive classes that they take, or art classes that they take, because it helps them to better lay someone, better present a loved one. Some people really take this as like this is their craft and they're just really good at what they do. But there are sometimes, no matter how great they are, they're good, but they're not God. So
True.
Yeah, it depends on the funeral home. And that's why you shop around to go to funerals. Ask
right.
Who did the funeral? You know, the most
girl, there's some here that we know everybody know not to go to.
And you know what? Look, I'm going to tell y'all this. Look, there's always something funny at a funeral. Listen. I know you probably don't believe me in this moment, but if you take the time and just look around, there is always something a little funny at the funeral. Happens all the time.
Yes, trust me, I know. I was the one 2 days ago. So yeah, that is the truth. What's today? Thursday. Yesterday. It's funny, and it was family. But anyway, so now she's laughing. She said, "Oh my God." So my next question, and guys, don't forget drop your questions as well. You said earlier with cremation, this is probably a weird question too, because somebody and I had this conversation and they were like, how do you know that they're not cremating, let's say 3 people at the funeral that's being cremated?
Right.
So then how do you know that they just put all 3 of them in the same thing and you getting the right ashes? You might have Bob ashes and thinking it's your... How does...
Excellent question. And these are the type of questions you should ask. These are great because when other time are you going to ask them? There's no such thing as a silly question in this industry because you guys don't do this all the time. We do.
Right.
So that's okay. So anytime it's against the law to cremate multiple people at the same time. No matter what state you're in, it's against the law. We can get in a lot of trouble from doing that. At some funeral homes here in California, so the moment that the person comes into our location or we make contact with them, so whether that be picking them up or they come into our location, they're immediately identified. And there's usually a tag that goes around their ankle that has identification information there. That also is going on the outside of your container or whatever it is that's housing you while we get everything registered or ready for your service. That same anklet stays with you until the end of time. When we are ready to cremate a loved one, they usually are inside of a cremation container, whether that be a thicker, durable cardboard, which is called a minimum cremation container, or whether that be a casket, because there are some caskets that you can cremate. There's a small disc that has a serial number on it. That serial number is your number and your number only. That goes inside of the chamber with that particular loved one. The average length of time for a loved one to be cremated is about 3 hours, give or take. Because really what you're getting back is bone. It's our bone density that's cremated, and it's based on the bone density, of how long it takes for that to be over. But that little disc goes like in the corner of your chamber, and even on the outside of the chamber, there's identification paperwork that's right on the outside, so we always know who is who. That same little disc, most of the time we'll give that to you. We try not to retain that. We give that to the family, and that serial number is on that permit that we talked about. It's within our logs and such. Every funeral home gets reviewed, so there's no such thing as cremating multiple people at the same time, honey.
Girl, I had to ask because people be trying to discourage me. Girl, how you know this and that? Da, 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 da. I'm like,
that's okay. That's good. These are great questions because how else would you know?
Right.
And even with the cremation process, if I can go a little bit further than that, listen, y'all, if you have gold in your mouth, do not ask us to take it out because we won't. It just doesn't work that way. Maybe if they like some bottoms, you could just pop out real quick or something like that, then maybe. But if you have like a gold filling, that's so small, it's going to disintegrate during that cremation process anyway. If you feel like you just really need it, a licensed dentist is going to have to be the one to come and remove it. We can't do that. That would be considered mutilation. So we can't do that. And that's going to cost you some money, honey. Okay.
Oh, so just let them go with what they
had that little side go too. Please, just let them go ahead and take it.
They all have one right here, right? And be thinking he's smooth too.
Yeah, okay. Just let him go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Oh my God, that is so funny. Thank you. She know a Gucci man going with his gold teeth. Little do you know, baby.
Girl, yes he is. Yes he is.
Oh my God. Listen, what about dentures?
Oh, dentures. If you want them back, you can have them. But there are. Don't Don't be making me laugh, girl. There are some people who want dentures back. And if that is your choice, I do not knock you for it. I have been asked for a little bit of everything back. So I wouldn't be surprised. And I have returned dentures back. You know, somebody may have said, oh, well, she just got them. This is like one of the few things that I have to remember he or her by. I mean, it's
I was really joking. Oh my God.
Yeah, we get asked for everything. Locks of hair. We'll be asked for fingernails, clothes. Like they'll say, put this necklace on her now, but I want it back before the end of the cream. We get asked for everything.
Oh wow, that is wow. Well, I mean, I guess. So,
yeah, I had a woman who cremated in her first. She's from China. She said she opened up her own business. She had a restaurant and a dry cleaning business. She put it in her arrangements. She had a notarized letter that she is to be cremated in her fur because her fur was the first expensive thing that she bought for herself as a reward for her business. So stuff like that, you know, I can see why you want that to go with you. And there's some things that people want back. You know, that's okay. And I would always say, if a loved one is being cremated, try to get a thumbprint recorded or try to get a lock of hair. One, because the lock of hair is DNA. Always remember that. That's DNA. If something ever come up, somebody got some kids, you don't know, something. You got DNA.
That's a tip.
But you could but you could also turn that into something beautiful. Some people make art out of the locks of hair. The thumbprint, a lot of people get cremation jewelry with that thumbprint, so their loved one is always near and dear. It's little mementos. I even tell people who have a loved one, whether they're buried or cremated, write them a letter. Ask us to stick it in their pocket, or during the ceremony, ask us to place it with them. It's a beautiful send-off. It really is. And that's something personal between you and that particular
right. And that could be closure for some people as well.
Mm-hmm. And some people, they want to be able to say that one last thing, or maybe they can't at the ceremony. So, you know, writing a letter is very expressive. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Even add a picture. One lady was cremated every single day. They said she ate a bag of Lay's potato chips. She knitted a blanket, and she had a newspaper. So she had so we tucked the newspaper right underneath her arm. The bag of chips was laid right underneath the other one. And instead of crossing her hands, we had like knitting, like a needle, like the knitting kit in her hands. So the yarn so you could be creative, because it's about that individual, you know. Make it as personal as you like.
Because in my head, and some people might think it's weird, but I feel like when they get to heaven, they're gonna, you know, come back to life. And they'll have what they always love. That's my vision. So.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because in some cultures, that's what they believe. They believe in whatever you go with, you transition
that's
with.
That's what you go with.
Some Asian cultures, they'll have like these little statues of like servants, or sometimes they'll have like a little paper car. They'll have paper money. That's to go with them to the afterlife. So they burn those, you know. So you help yourself. We're not going to tell you that.
So Dorothy said, the remains have been distributed among the families. So how do you know what part of the remains you got? And I'm glad she asked that, because that's something I told my children. They all better carry a piece of me in a little necklace. And so somebody's like, that's how the conversation came up. Like, how do you know that it's your body? So you answered that, which is amazing. And so now how would you know which part of the body? You really
you don't. Okay. You don't. So after cremation, after the cremation process, we have to break down your ashes. We have to process them, is what we call. So it's like a grinder that it goes into, and then it grinds up so that way they can become more fine. There may be a few larger pieces in there, but think of it almost as like really coarse sand. And you don't know exactly which part. So you don't know if you're getting elbow, you don't know if you're getting big toe. You have no idea, but it will be your loved one that you're getting back.
Yes. Okay. I'm so glad you clarified that it's illegal to put more than one body.
It's illegal. We don't do that.
That's gonna be my answer now. So do you guys have any more questions? Now, I can't believe that we're on here and people don't have questions about what's gonna happen the next, for when they try to move on to make sure their body be in the right spots and stuff. Now, my next question was gonna be, I just went blank.
That's okay. There's so many things to talk about.
So that's one of the things. So I know I have the funeral arrangements happening for me because of my situation. But is it hard to get into this industry? And you mentioned earlier that you you do a few different states.
Man,
So
look, I done did almost everything except for embalm. That's the only thing that I have not done was embalm. I've been back there with the embalmers. I've cosmetized loved ones. I've gotten them dressed. I've done the services. I've made the arrangements. I've gone all the way to the burial site. I've been a janitor for, we call it the janitorial liaison. I've been a janitor for a very, very large, prestigious funeral home. I've literally done almost everything. So you don't have to necessarily be work for the funeral home directly to be tied to the funeral home. Again, there's removal technicians. So a lot of funeral homes have third parties that they work with. They have a third party, a different company that will go out and pick up the loved ones to bring to their funeral home. Not everybody works directly for the funeral home. Like what you do, you make obituaries, you make programs, you make programs for loved ones. It's really called a program. Okay, listen, it's a pet peeve of mine. Okay, it's really called a program. The obituary is the story of your life. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But making flyers, there's all kinds of ways to be tied to the funeral home without going directly through. I would say go to your local funeral home or the funeral home that you're looking for and see what they need. And then adjust yourself based on what their needs are. They'll explain what the role is, because not everybody wants to do everything and not everybody wants to be up front. Not everybody wants to be in the back. Some people want to do the administrative work. So it just depends on who you are and what you feel that you can handle.
I want to be the comforter, but I'll be crying right along with them. I know I can't.
Listen, you are the comforter. Like, look at what you're doing right now. You're giving people the tools. You're, to move on how to do things. And really, being a counselor is a beautiful thing. I mean, I couldn't tell you all the certifications on becoming someone who helps other individuals afterwards. When the dust settles 2 or 3 weeks after the funeral. Sometimes people just need someone to talk to or connect with. You can do that already just by being you. So
being there.
Welcome to the
Thank
industry.
you. So Cara said I will be crying too. So Bonnie,
girl, I do. So, girl, sometimes my lash fall off. I do too. Like, we're human, so we can feel.
Yeah. You show that empathy. So Joanna said, do you bury more than one? What is it? Do you bury more than one body in a hole?
You can. Sometimes they have, that's a good question. Sometimes they have double like layered plots. So there'll be two.
I know the military one does, because that's how my grandmother and grandpa.
Like for the military, exactly. Like for the military, they usually have a plot for the spouse and for the individual, the veteran that had passed. So you could do that. You can. And
do you know anything about planting burying remains like a tree?
Oh man, there's so many agencies that will allow you to do that. Some funeral homes are tied to those industries, but also Google. Man, Google is a powerful thing because there are places in California. There's places really all over where you can go where they'll allow you to place. They'll usually give you something to place the cremated remains in, or they'll take it and place them in something and incorporate that into a burial. So that's usually called a green burial. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was a good question, Gregory.
Oh yeah.
She said you are the comforter, and so Joanna says 20 years in nursing and still crying when I have to. I can't even imagine.
The hardest for me are kids. I'm sure it's the same for her, but when I see kids go, my God, I lose it every time. Sometimes I'm hanging on. I'm not shedding any tears until they leave, but as soon as they leave, I'm
break
bawling,
down.
Bawling, because I'm human too. People
right.
We're all morbid, and I promise we're not. I'm really goofy, but we're not morbid. I promise we're human too, so we feel.
Coco says, do you look at a person to do a person's will? A person's will.
Not necessarily, because a will has nothing to do with us. What we're looking for within that, sometimes people send it to us thinking that will work for us, but that won't necessarily work for disposition or cremation or burial. It doesn't necessarily work for that. It would have to have that particular clause in it saying this individual has the right to control their disposition. Or something, or they have the right to control whatever happens to their remains. But usually that's not in a will and testament. That's in an advanced healthcare directive or power of attorney for healthcare.
Okay. Wow. This is something.
But I see them, girl. I do. I be knowing people's business. I do.
You're so funny. You see who broke. I tell my kids all the time, I ain't really got much to leave for y'all. I don't know what y'all can eat.
We'll see people pull up with Gucci belts and you know, Louis jackets, and they could barely scrape up $400 or $500. So, you know, it's a lot.
That's the sad part. That's the really sad part right there. But
Mm-hmm.
these were amazing. Chanel's laughing. These were amazing. I mean, I'm so glad that we decided to do this because we were supposed to end it there. Mm-hmm. But if you guys are just tuning in, make sure you catch the replay. The questions that I asked, the question that some of you guys asked were really, I thought some of mine was crazy, but she answered it like, no, nothing's crazy.
Yeah. So
make sure you catch a replay. Share this with someone you know. If you have any questions, send her a DM. She'll be willing to answer. Like I tell all my my audience, don't be over asking too many questions now. We're going to have to put y'all on a retainer. But if you do want to know, Star is amazing and she will assist you guys. We're confident. One more question that I have.
Please.
How do you know, or, okay, so you know how people be like, girl, yeah, I just lost my grandpa. My grandpa just died too. It's not always the same because the relationship might not be the same or something like that. What do you encourage us to say or don't say?
Oh, that's great. Never ask anybody how you doing. I mean, obviously their mood sucks. So,
right.
You know, don't ask anybody how you doing. A great alternative is how you holding up.
Right.
You know, and then when people ask you, what can I do? You know, it's always somebody that wants to help. They just don't know how. So when people are saying, you know, what you want me to do, be transparent. I need gas because I don't know how I'm gonna get to the funeral because I haven't been thinking about gas. That's when people want to bring you food. Accept it. You know, even though you may not like broccoli, just eat the broccoli, baby, for that night. You know, let them go ahead and bless you. Or even leave me be. Right now, I just need time and space to myself. People are much more understanding around this time. And don't be afraid. Don't be too prideful to ask for help. That's what people are there for. Can you go pick this up for me? Because I haven't been able to, you know. So, yeah, that's where that point person comes into play, too.
Right. They do all the, because, you know, one of my students passed away a few days ago. Me and family.
Oh, wow. I'm so sorry. That's fun.
Car accident. Somebody ran the light, slammed him. He was the only one that passed away out of the vehicle, out of the three boys. And, you know, I went to the mom and stuff like she, you know, obviously you lost your child, so you're up and down. And that's one thing I'm so careful. What do you need me to do? I always say that. What do you need me to do? Because sometimes I think like, I don't want nobody to ask me how I'm feeling. Clearly, I'm not feeling good.
Right.
I mean, what you want me? I'm good. I'm cheery. No. So I'm glad that you answered that. Is now a better time? That's a good question. It's my next go-to line. Right. How can I help? Right. Yes, Joanna. Exactly.
And you know, what I suggest too is set an alarm on your phone. We all got cell phones that have alarms or calendars. Set a calendar 3 months from now. Ask that same question. Is there anything that you need? Because maybe then she might need $100 because her gas is getting ready to go off because she spent all the money on this, you know, or maybe she just says, I need a friend. You know, I just need somebody to talk to. Even think about, mark that day that loved one passed and make sure to plan something to give to them that's going to remind them of their loved one. That way they know that they're always thought about. So for instance, for some people, I tell them, make your loved one a pillow. So grab an old shirt of that person that passed away. Ask that person for a shirt. Turn that into a pillow. Give that to them on that anniversary date, whether that be their birthday, whether that be Christmas, or the day that person transitioned.
Oh, wow.
Give them that as a nice gift. You know, just remember that person because they're always going to need you when the dust settles. Everybody comes to you in the beginning. What you need?
Hello.
What you need? I got you. What you need? What you need? I'm here. I'm here. But then people disappear and they don't realize that emotion always carries on. You're always going to feel that. But you know, somebody got a message for you too.
Yes.
Someone said, I feel such positive vibes from the facilitator. She's going higher and farther. I'm going to make sure that I add her to my prayer list because I see success.
Who said that?
Miss Dorothy said that about you.
Don't make me cry on here.
Girl, it's greatness that's coming from you, Corey. That's why when you asked me, I'm like, oh, me? Girl, yeah.
Girl, you better stop.
Girl, yeah.
Thank you, Miss Dorothy. Oh, my God. Y'all, I be acting hard, but I'm really soft.
But you are.
Oh, my God.
What you do, you bring so much enlightenment to all these different areas, you know, things that we all experience. And, you know, you're needed just as much as everyone else. So I'm grateful that you have invited me on your platform because this is special.
Thank you. You're welcome. Oh, my God. She just really blessed my heart. Thank you, Miss Dorothy. But I am so glad that you took the time to do this. I know we're a 3-hour difference, so you probably still on the job, huh?
Yeah, off and on. Yeah, I'm sitting here glancing at emails and everything.
Yes. So I really didn't mean to hold you this long, but
that's okay.
We got one more part, you know, the would you rather. So it's a mix of what you do and just simple life. So if you guys are new to my live, I usually ask would you rather, or I say first things first. So today, and you guys know I don't do it, my daughter does, either one of them. So I'm only seeing it now, so it's not too bad. I glimpse it like right before I act. So
okay.
The first, would you rather? You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Would you rather carnations or roses?
Carnations. Roses are too typical for me. They're beautiful, right. Don't get me wrong, but give me something a little different. Give me some carnations.
Yes. I love carnations too, and hibiscus.
Mm-hmm. Mine is tulips. Mm-hmm.
Tulips. Oh,
such a pretty flower. It's a happy flower.
And that's the next one. Flowers or cards?
Child. Cards are so much more sentimental because I get to hold them near and dear and they last a lifetime.
For a longer time, yeah.
Right. But then again, I also don't really have a lot of space for any more cards.
I know.
I always have space for cards, but you know, I do get a few thank yous. So I try to retain as many as I can. But flowers are such a beautiful gesture. I mean, it's so beautiful. It's light, and you can get just just one flower and give it to someone, and it can change their entire day. It means
so much. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Open or like the flowers that I got for my birthday from my society sisters. I was like, oh my God. And they got sunflowers in there. Y'all know I love sunflowers.
Oh, beautiful.
So I was like, y'all be watching. Y'all know. So open or closed casket?
Oh, girl, I'm vain. So, you know, open me up. You know, I want you to see me. You know, I'm gonna probably be sitting like this. You know, like that. But you know, have it open. Let people share their love with me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Deserted island or stranded on in the desert?
Well, I feel like I'm in the desert right now. I mean, if you would ask, Vegas is the desert. My God, 115 degrees, and then it dropped down to 29 at night. I don't know. But you know, I love water. Water is so calming to me. So I'm gonna say, put me by the water somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. But 129? Oh, geez, I can't do it. And I'm menopausal right now. Mm-mm.
Oh no, like it goes to like 115, and then it'll drop. Like if it gets cold out here, like the other day it was 29 degrees. So you know,
oh wait, what?
Yeah, if it gets hot, it can get like 115, 117. It gets hot. Right now, it gets in the colder stages. Mm-hmm.
Oh wow, that's a big drop though.
Ain't it right?
Yeah. We get cold, but like we were like 51 the other day, 49, and then we go up to 102. That's the most we'll go up to that I've seen. Ice cream, soft serve or sherbet? Soft serve
ice cream
or sherbet? Soft serve ice cream or sherbet?
Give me some rainbow sherbet.
Rainbow
sherbet. I do like a little sherbet.
Forever 21 or H&M?
Oh,
I like Forever 21 jeans.
You know what? I get on the top from Forever 21 right now. But I like. Oh God. I would say Forever 21 is more creative with their designs and with their patterns and such, but H&M has a more tailored fit. So it just depends on
that is true.
It depends on where I'm going. So because of the industry that I'm in, I'm usually working more than anything else. I'm gonna go with H&M.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Top golf or bowling?
Girl, I don't know what I'm doing with golf. Give me some bowling. I suck at bowling too, but let me roll that thing. Let me my weights. Let me roll that thing.
I be done through the what they call the thing? I forgot.
That thing?
What is it called?
Whatever you call it.
We don't know. That thing. Mm-hmm. Red lipstick or clear lip gloss? She ain't seen you. So I already know what it is.
I'm always wearing some lipstick. Some hue of red, pinkish, burgundy something.
That burgundy be popping on you.
Girl,
yes,
I be trying.
Yes.
I be trying. I do.
Oh my gosh. Hey, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you catch the replay. Guys, tonight we had an amazing conversation with Star Dior.
Yes. Okay, wait. Let me just tell y'all. So Star Dior is my name. It's just not my first name. My first name is Dominique. I go by Dom sometimes, but my name is Dominique Starla Dior Poston. It's a long name, so I just Starla Dior. That's
you just go by that name. Well, I love Starla Dior. It just sounds like, you know, just yeah, she's here. Watch out.
It is.
Cameras.
My stage.
I love it. Thank you guys, those of you that stayed on. Thank you so much for staying on, sharing. And if you didn't catch it all, make sure you catch the replay. I'm going to download it in a few minutes as soon as we log off. And so much again, thank you, Star, for being here and taking the time out to really give us the information that we will rarely hear on any other occasion. So
yes.
Thank you so much. You already know how I feel about you, and I love you. And we will be in touch. Yes. Thank you, Mama Dorothy. So y'all already know I'm your girl, Corey Love. I'm here on Thursdays, 8 p.m. Tune in next Thursday. Tell a friend, bring a friend, guidance, lessons, and love. Good night.
Night.